Hello. Welcome to Productions MJC.
We're going to be discussing a phenomenon that is resurfacing, flat Earth, and we'll be talking about flat Earth trolls, people that are supplying you with correct information and then telling you wrong information.
This will be a re-editing with the addition of some freeze frames to explain some things. This was my very first video I ever made, and I was pretty naive. I thought that people really were investigating whether the Earth was flat or a globe. I really didn't have an idea of what was going on out there. The audio was horrible. I flitted and I burned through some ideas that I thought people would get, but they didn't. I mean, just last week I had somebody ask me what was up with the 4-mile laser test, so I'm going to just let the thing fly. I'm going to interrupt with some further explaining of some concepts here, but hang with me and you're going to enjoy this.
So first off, what's real? What is real and what does our Earth actually look like that we're on? There are ways that we can find this out for ourselves. Can we find it out for ourselves? Yes, we can. So if you're curious about the truth and a way that you can find it out for yourself, a way that you don't have to rely on somebody else, if you wonder which competing theory is correct, convex, concave, or flat, let's help you to understand what we're talking about. This is the globe theory, the convex, where senses fail us, reason must step in. So let's take a look at the other competing theories. We have concave, where we're inside the ball, supposedly, and we have the flat Earth. If we prove the convex, the globe, the other two are gone. So we have convex, flat, concave. So let's try to figure out, just simple tests, what is real. What is real as opposed to what is fantasy. Along with fantasy, believe it or not, there is intentional disinformation out there. Misinformation. Intentional trying to confuse you. That's a troll. Now there's a super troll out there, there are others. They aren't really flat earthers, but they're trolling the internet for the gullible in the worst possible way because they don't believe what they're telling you. And they give you stuff like this video. They show you a boat over the horizon with part of the hull missing.
Perfectly calm water with the appearance of flatness, just whoop.
Then in the video they talk about the boat here, how it looks to be disappearing, but it really isn't. It's just on the next hurdle. It's just on the second or third one. But notice,
perfectly calm water with the appearance of flatness.
The orange indicates
perfectly calm water.
And part of that boat is missing. It's out there about 7 nautical miles. See how they show that disappearing? Well, what they do is they say, well, when you look here, it looks like it's disappearing, but it's really not. Well, this is a view from underwater. This can't happen. You don't look at a race or the ocean underwater. You look on top of the water. Now, these orange ones, they will show you, and the black lines are white caps or other illustrations. They're trying to say mask the hull of the boat, but if you zoom in, you'll see the whole thing. If you notice the race, you look at a race from above. And this person's torso, you can see just as much as that person way in the back. How come that's significant? They show you that you can see the boat, and as long as you had a good telephoto lens, you could still see the top of the boat. But their illustration shows you that the boat has gone over the horizon. It's very different from the front boat. They're giving you the correct information and then talking disinformation. They're showing you a view underneath the surface of the water, and they've drawn little fancy drawings and everything, and then they show you the top of the water and say, oh, it looks like this, but that boat, it really hasn't gone over. If you zoom in enough, you'll see it.
Because it's a short distance.
If you zoom in enough, you will see just as much as that person as you would if they were standing in front of this. And these are all slides from their videos where they show things and then talk about them. They talk about it's all a joke, all fun and games. They're making fun of you in telling you there's a flat Earth. They show you pictures like this of this GoPro versus GoPro corrected. What is GoPro? GoPro is a fisheye lens. This is a perfect example of a picture of a fisheye where this is a flat wall. It makes the center look closer when it really isn't. This is a fisheye mask. It shows you basically the flat lines that curve on a fisheye, but they're really flat in real life. But if you'll notice, I'll put a mask on here where the lines of this building match almost perfectly with that mask.
It needs correction for GoPro.
This top picture is a regular picture. It's a 50mm. It is not a 38mm fisheye lens. It doesn't need to be corrected. There's a link in the video to a high altitude balloon that goes up 115,000 feet. Now notice the center and the earth, and I've drawn in lines. Now remember, the fisheye lens curves.
Not only up and down, but left and right.
Well, if you look, here is the center of this thing. Now, notice I'm going to indicate, here's the center. The orange follows the curve of the Earth, which rises, and this sinks. The black follows the GoPro mask. You'll notice that that's different. That's totally backwards of what it should be if this was a fisheye lens of a flat Earth. It actually proves there's a curve. Here's a picture of a fisheye with the curve, indicating, remember again, this line down here in real life is straight. So it should bow up at the top, bow down at the bottom, but this doesn't. This goes exactly the opposite.
I've had photography as a hobby for 40 years. This is a 50mm picture. This is not fisheye. It just isn't. Here I'm going to break in with some information that wasn't around at the original time of the making of this video. These video makers have introduced new definitions to words that don't actually exist in the encyclopedias or dictionaries. Chief among these, angular resolution or video compression, claiming the reason you can't see the bottom of the boat is because of the compression of the air, or the angle at which you're viewing hides it, but it's really there. Compression is the term they use for mirage. Angular resolution simply means the inability of whatever you're using to look with, eyes, telescope, camera, whatever, it's just the inability to distinguish two from one. It looks like one. And you can see that boat plainly doesn't have that problem. It's laughable to suggest that you can't tell the bottom of the boat from the ocean.
And that boat is about 7 nautical miles out. It's gone over the curve of the horizon. In the video, they show you this boat and show you it bobbing up and down in the ocean, and they say it's disappearing because of the swells. But this boat hasn't disappeared because of a swell. They're giving you correct information, and then disinformation is being spoken. Here's, there are swells. Just when that boat starts to disappear over the edge of the horizon, technical difficulties, and notice here a 4-mile laser test is being done by the same individual. Why 4 miles?
Simply because curvature is harder to hide after 4 miles. It just gets kind of rough to hide it. You notice it.
And they link to this video, and if you go in here, they never zoom in on this, because if they did, you wouldn't see this water here. You would barely be able to see here, about right where that footprint is circled. They're about 5.5 feet above the surface of the water on each side. 11 feet.
A commenter said 11. Where did you get 11 from? Well, 11 comes from algebra. If you have an equation, if you're solving for an equation, you can take away from one side, add it to another. You can zero out one side, and you can take what's left over and add it to the other side, and such. Just simple math. That's all we're doing. We take from one place and we put it in another. Well, in Jaronism's video, his target is 5.5 feet off the water, and his camera is 5.5 feet off the water. And what's unique about a ball, or the teeter-totter effect, as you drop one side, the other side raises. And so if you take 5.5 and you zero it on the one side and add it to the other, 5.5 plus 5.5 equals 11. I thought that would be simple, but some flat earthers really had a hard time, and that kind of that's why I went in my other video, flat earthers just hate math. They don't understand it. They don't grasp it. I mean, I would have to get real simple and put like 5 apples on one side of the table, 5 apples on the other side of the table, and say, what happens when we move these from here to here? That's how algebra works. But, I'm sorry I had to flit and zip through it. But in my mind, having calculus, physics, chemistry, biology, and all this other stuff under my belt, to me it was just purely natural. So I apologize if I lost anybody, and I lost people that weren't even flat earth believers, so apologize for that. I thought it was a simple thing. The camera was 5.5 feet, the target was 5.5 feet. If you zero it on one side, you get 11 on the other side. Then you can plug 11 into this and you can more accurately find drops and such like that. Zeroing equations in order to make them simpler, it's called simplifying. When you do that, it just makes it easier to find the answer.
Why 4 miles? Because as you'll notice, there's nothing hidden. There is no horizon that they can deal with. That's why they never zoom in on this. They leave it out there saying, well, I wish you could see that. Why not zoom in? Because you would see that the horizon is about that footprint or less, because of the way they've got it done. People in the video even comment and notice, oh yeah, this is all fake. Now, let me backtrack to something else. They talk about convergence. They say there's a mirage there. That's why you can't see the bottom of the boat. If you'll notice, there is no mirage here. There is some choppy water. But this boat, this cargo ship, is not in a trough.
This next thing happened too fast for some people to grasp. So I'm going to explain this and then just cut to the part of the video that I had originally. But what I'm going to show you right now, this is a view from Alcott, New York, Alcott Beach actually, to Toronto, across Lake Ontario. So you're standing in America, filming Canada. The size of the CN tower is so many feet high, 1,815. But as you take this shot, even from 25 feet above the water, you can't see all of the CN tower. Now, folks will say, well, that's a mirage. Flat earthers will say it's a mirage, it's convergence. And of course, angular resolution is the newest way to try to describe it. Or it's atmospheric lensing, which I've never really went into about atmospheric lensing. Atmospheric lensing looks similar to a mirage, but there are multiple images of the same thing. There's not just a blur and a reflection, but there are multiple reflections because there's multiple paths for the light to go through. Atmospheric lensing was before angular resolution. It used to be the go-to. On this, it's just the edge of Lake Ontario. That's it. This is what's called a GIF. It kind of flashes back and forth between the camera view from standing where you're high enough and close enough you can see the whole thing. It's a comparison to what you can see of the tower. 603 feet is missing, and my point in the video is it's not a ship. You can't say that Toronto has disappeared into a trough on the ocean. I've mentioned this before. I've challenged flat earthers to explain this, and as soon as they say, well, it's mirage, I'll say, well, it can't be a mirage because I'm seeing the rest of the Toronto skyline. I can't see the trucks or the buses. And they'll say, well, it's not to scale. And I said, it's done to scale because the tower lines up perfectly. I've had multiple excuses why. And I've had the classic flat earth diversionary tactics. They'll say, well, what about NASA? What about this? What about that? What about that? They won't answer the question because they look at it and they know they can't. They'll say, well, what about the fact that on certain days, at certain times, maybe 2-3 times a year, you can see this from here? So, well, is it only flat during certain times? What you're saying? You question whether it's flat or a ball because on 2 or 3 days out of the year, some sort of optical illusion makes you wonder what's going on? That makes no sense. That's like arguing about a magician's trick. So what are you saying? And the instant reply is, well, what about NASA? What about these photos? What about this? Just, they won't answer the question. What I have failed in this first video to point out, and I learned this through just watching Flat Earth videos, listening to their comments, talking to people, arguing with people. Flat Earth is not about proving anything. They're not going to prove anything. It's up to you to prove it. And again, let me reiterate that. Flat Earth is not about proving anything. They're not about to prove anything to you. It's always about doubt. Doubt what your eyes see, doubt what your senses tell you, doubt the information you're getting, doubt this, doubt that. Flat Earth is a belief in doubt, which is, yeah, it's contradictory, isn't it? It's oxymoronish, with emphasis on the moron. Well, anyway, I digress. That, I'm gonna interject this, and then I'm gonna, try to explain some other things, but that's what this flashing thing was about, to show you that 603 feet of shoreline is missing. And the only way it can be missing, because there's no mirage, there's no, there's no heat shimmer, there's nothing that can explain this except curvature.
Is there 603 feet of shoreline missing in a trough? No, it's a shoreline. It's not going to be in the bottom of a lake. Again, let's go back to here. Why don't they focus in on here? Because you would see that you don't see the edge of this water. It's covered. They are about 5.5 feet on each side. Now, here are other projections of the Earth. Interestingly enough, these are all found by mathematically doing this from a globe. There's another projection. There is various different ways. This is the standard Mercator, which makes Greenland look big and looks Antarctica look big. This is a different version. It's not the Mercator, it's another projection done from a globe. This is a flat Earth, yet it's not, because it has 4 Antarcticas. And if you notice, the distance between Brisbane and Perth is a little bit longer between Melbourne and Timor-Sea. They are almost perfect on this map.
The one thing I forgot to point out in this map is not an actual flat Earth map. It's a representation that is made from a globe, and the globe has been quartered and laid out in a flat way because the lines of longitude don't intersect. They bend away from each other down at the bottoms and sides, and this is not the flat Earth map.
But when you go to the flat Earth map, you'll notice that Brisbane to Perth is quite a bit longer than Melbourne to Timor-Sea. There's the difference. This is an inaccurate representation of the Earth. This is the way that flat earthers say the Earth and Sun and Moon interact, which we've already shown that Australia is not to scale. It's wrong. But then they talk about, well, that's a perspective problem.
Okay, a few words on perspective. Let me interject these right here. Perspective is a drawing term. I've had 2 children that excelled in art. Perspective it's a way to represent on paper, canvas, or some other flat medium the optical illusion that your mind and eyes kind of make up on their own. I mean, when you look at a row of trees, and you know the trees are all parallel, however, it looks like the trees are actually coming closer together the farther they are away from you. You know, there's a part of your brain that knows that it's not right. It's not correct. So when you think of someone trying to explain to you the flat earth and say, well, it's a matter of perspective, you got to look at it this way. Well, the way they're telling you to look at it is an optical illusion. It's a incorrect way to think of it and look at it. They're already telegraphing their punch, so to speak. They're going to punch you in the gut and say, this is the way it is. Yet, if you step back and think, well, the way they're telling me it is not true. It's an optical illusion. It's incorrect. It's just the way my mind has interpreted what my eyes are looking at. So, really, when you back off and you think to yourself, take a step back and go, this person is telling me that I should look at this with an incorrect optical illusion in mind. The trees don't really come together. They still stay far apart. So there's something about the way they're telling me to look at this. They're already saying, this is incorrect information, but this is the way you've got to look at it. Which is actually true. In order to believe in a flat earth, you have to believe in incorrect information. You have to interpret it in an incorrect way, and then you have to apply and come to a conclusion in a totally backwards and incorrect way.
See, they talk about perspective a lot. This is what they talk about, the converging parallel lines, and how this sun and moon move along these parallel lines. But you notice the lines get smaller and smaller until they vanish behind this gentleman's head.
Now let me stop right here and just take some time to slow down and explain what's going on. Your mind and eyes work together in an optical illusion that the sides are caving in on you, the sky is coming down, the ground is raising up, and they all meet at some magical point where everything vanishes. But it's like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow you can never reach. As you go down that road, you can't ever get to the point where everything vanishes. It keeps moving. Another point, these converging parallel lines. And the sun, notice how the sun takes up a certain number of lines where it is right now. In other videos and later on in this one, I'm going to talk about what's significant about that. Because you have many different camps of flat earth. Some admit that the sun stays the same size, and they explain things or try to in various ways. There are other folks that take videos with fisheye lenses and they say, see, the sun is shrinking to a little dot. Having just witnessed an eclipse, I grabbed those glasses and I've watched the sunrise and the sunset. I've used them for a lot more than just the eclipse, which was pretty astounding. The sun does not raise up over the mountain as a little tiny dot. Actually, coming up looking like a basketball coming up behind the edge of a table. It's the same size at noon, and it's the same size when it sets. Because of where I live, a little bit of mountainous terrain, there's an optical illusion where it looks to get somewhat slightly bigger as it sets. Not smaller. But once you put on those glasses and you see just it, the eclipse glasses, you can watch it disappear behind the water on a lake or the ocean. You can watch it go behind the mountain. You can watch it disappear behind the horizon. And if you look at it with your eyes and watch it, instead of a camera, which lens can be distorted, watch it with your eyes, and you'll notice it stays the same size from sunup to sundown. And let me reiterate, if flat Earth were even remotely true at all, the sun would shrink to a tiny dot as well. Just a really minuscule dot, like a star in the sky. But That's not the way it happens, is it? Getting back to the original video, these parallel lines get bigger
as they come towards him, and if he turns around, it does the opposite. So let's go back to the flat Earth day and night cycle, where there's a sunrise and a sunset. And they say that's because if you're sitting in any location as the sun, which is 3,000 miles above you, 32 miles in diameter, moves around, that's why you have a sunrise and sunset, because it's simply just rotating away from you.
But they fail to mention the speed in the model of the sun and moon is twice the speed of sound.
But you notice the 3,000 miles is at noon, when it's straight up and down. Well, what about right at sunset? It's quite a bit farther away from you. So they show you drawings like this, where the red indicates a smaller sun or moon, and the black, which is closer to you, the black arrow, indicates a larger moon. Now we know that bridge doesn't get smaller. It stays the same width, but it's just a perception thing. We know the road doesn't get skinnier. We just know that it looks that way to our eyes as it travels off into the distance. We know that that mountain is quite big, and that road just doesn't get skinny down to a little thread. And they will draw pictures where they show the sun big at noon and it getting smaller as it gets towards the horizon.
One thing I kind of gloss over is this picture, where they have drawn in the sun changing shape and size, where, you know, I use some eclipse glasses that I bought for the eclipse, and I've watched it, and it doesn't shrink and grow, it stays the same size. They talk about they call the vanishing point and the true horizon the same thing. They're just drawing terms that they're reiterating. And also there are flat earthers that admit things in the distance do disappear from the bottom up, but they try to explain it away in various ways. And there are other flat earthers who vehemently deny the fact that as you watch, say, a tall ship, the hull will disappear, but you can still see the sails. Or a giant cargo ship, the whole hull will disappear and you'll see the control tower, which, you know, the conning tower, the communications bridge and such is still going to be there, but the whole hull is gone. They deny that happens. Other flat earthers admit that happens, but try to explain it away in a different way than actual what's happening, curvature. So I kind of just showed you this for a second, but you can read it and it's all contradicts what other flat earthers have to say.
Talking about any object that moves in the distance appears to rise up and such, and this is how they do their thing.
In another video I quickly explain this. So let me go into some detail. Just a myriad of things going on. The flat earthers believe, state, and say that they're always looking at a perfectly flat horizontal, you know, their vision is always perfectly horizontal. There's some contradictory things happening here. The bottom convergent lines aim up to this magic vanishing point in the sky that's even with his eyesight. In a video I rotate this so that you can see the line that says convergent is flat, horizontal, and it shows him looking down. Well, if the ground is flat, if you're standing on a basketball court and you are looking at a golf ball on the other side of the basketball court and your eyes are 6 feet off the ground, you are forming a right triangle where your feet to the ball is called the run. From your feet to your head is called the rise. There's a right angle going up your spine to your eyeballs. And the hypotenuse is from your eyes to the golf ball. It's a right triangle. You are looking down at the horizon. The horizon doesn't magically come up to your eye level. You are standing there and you are looking down at the horizon. If it's, say, on a lake, it is a small angle, There's another video where I actually go in and calculate some of the angles, what the down angle would be if you're standing, say, in the Burj Khalifa, 1,800 feet high, as opposed to standing on the shore next to the base of the Burj Khalifa and your eyes are 6 feet off the water. What kind of an angle you're looking down, but you always are looking down at the horizon. You're never looking up to the horizon. If you are, then you're underwater. You're always going to be looking down. It's going to be a small angle, imperceptible to you, but you're always looking down. And another thing is going on here. The word horizon on the right there, and then the depiction of the sun. Everything follows the lines of convergence except the sun. There is a flat earther who animates this for you and shows you the sun traveling across the sky. And it stays the same size. It doesn't shrink like, say, it was a car moving away from you, or a train, or a boat, or something. It stays the same size. Yeah, this guy animates this stuff a lot that he has, which is nice. But it doesn't follow, it doesn't shrink like the lines of convergent that goes to a little dot. It stays huge, which contradicts everything they tell you. This is the vanishing point. This is where everything disappears. That's why the sun disappears. And yet they have the sun remain the same size and be huge. I mean, like I said, I've tried to reiterate this point many times. There is not one single version of the flat earth. There are many personal interpretations. That's what they are. They're personal beliefs. They're not reality. They're not truth. They're just what somebody guesses, thinks, supposes, or tries to con you with. There is not one single physical model of a flat earth that you can sit on a tabletop, plug in and watch it work and see it go through moon cycles and everything else. There's nothing. They have models that you can plug in of the globe, and it can show you all sorts of stuff. People can draw it on a piece of paper. This is their perspective matrix, but you're never looking flat horizontal. You're always looking down. And if you take that bottom line that says convergent and you move it and tilt this picture until it's flat and horizontal, you'll see the person's eyes are looking down. This whole thing is an optical illusion, and it makes as much sense to debate about it and argue about it as it arguing about how much blood a person's going to lose when they get cut in half by a magician.
This is real life. This is a time-lapse photo, I believe Morocco. Notice that they're paintings. This is from another flat earth perspective video where they show this moon and sun small at the horizons to match this, the fact that these converging lines do get smaller. But notice that is not that small. It doesn't shrink. Notice I've kind of merged the two to show you this is their concept. Big moon or sun at noon and tiny dot on the horizon. But this is reality. You can do this by yourself with any digital. You can do this with your phone. You can take pictures and stick them together from a $3 camera. This picture is physically impossible on a flat earth. Here's another one. Because according to the flat earth, it's moving farther away from you, so it should be coming small, like a plane or a train or a boat or anything that gets smaller. As you look at this, they say that the sun and the moon are 3,000 miles above us,
circling at twice the speed of sound. And the flat earth idea would have you believe that they are moving away from you or coming towards you twice the speed of sound.
Big at noon and get small. But we all can see that that's not the truth. That's not correct. This photograph is impossible on a flat earth. It's impossible on a concave earth as well, but we're proving the convex. This is time-lapse, where the moon moves and it stays the same size. Here's another photograph. That is impossible on a flat Earth, because that moon should be a little dot as it gets to the vanishing point. Especially this. They talk about, well, it's over the mountains or such. This is over the sea. It's moonrise or moonset. This is from a flat Earth video that says the Earth is flat, and yet they give you a picture that cannot be taken on a flat Earth, because that moon should be a teeny tiny dot.
Now let's compare fisheye to regular photographs. This is a regular 50mm photo on top because the sun is round, and when you try to correct it like on the bottom, it makes the sun oval and flattened out because it's wrong. It's not meant to be corrected. It's not fisheye.
They hate GoPro, they hate fisheye, and yet this is from a flat Earth video where they show, we'll see the sun's a little bit smaller on the horizons than it is in the middle.
It's fisheye distortion.
This is a GoPro picture. This is a fisheye lens, and it will make things on the edges smaller, as you can see, and a little bit bigger, but not much. There's not much of a difference between the size of those. So where the senses fail us, reason must step in.
Our senses fail us because of the optical illusion. So you need to look at this and realize this is real.
If you notice, they talk about the 8 inches per mile squared. It's totally irrelevant, because that's from ground level. That's from where your feet are. Your head may be 50 feet above the ground. Here's the convergence I was talking about. Remember that? The mirage, the fuzz. Well, if you look at this next photograph, it has no mirage, no convergence, as they call it. It's just a name they've made up.
Convergence, and when I say they've made it up, they haven't made up the word convergence. They've made up their own definition of what convergence means. They've made up their own connotation, denotation, made up their own little thing for it. Because normally, convergence means the coming together of, say, ocean currents, where two separate ocean currents meet. There's a convergence zone where the Amazon flows into the ocean. There's a convergence zone where two air currents, like your jet stream and just normal air, meet. But they call convergence where the air meets the ocean, which isn't what it means. And so they say that when these two different mediums meet, they cause sort of a stirring up and a mixing, and they kind of blend into an amalgam of itself that isn't really air, really isn't ocean. It's just what it is, a mirage or whatever. Totally, I mean, it's a made-up definition. Not really a made-up word, I guess, but it's just a bastardizing of the actual word.
It's a way to fake people out and then see if those people accept it. See, look at this. This is the golden energy. This is the way it looks about a mile out. What happens when that boat gets 6.5 nautical miles out? A little bit of it starts to disappear. The Yellowstone, 7.7 nautical miles, about half the boat's gone. And the Spirit, it's 9.9 nautical miles out there. This person's about 10, 12 feet off the ground. They're not going to see that boat. It's gone over the horizon. You can do this. You can go out and take a picture of the moon, and you can see that the moon doesn't get smaller. The flat Earth is a lie.
Let me interject something right now. When I went through this, like I said, this was the very first video, but it had a lot of the concepts. I actually go into detail about how you can test the size of the moon yourself. I want to bring up a concept that a lot of globe earthers may not have realized. Not only is flat Earth a lie, but the people telling the lie know it's a lie, and the people listening to the lie, for the most part, most of them know it's a lie. What is that? So what's the point? It's about attention. They want to be the people that have a special secret, that know special information, and they want to be the one to disseminate this special information that nobody else knows, that is being kept a secret, that is hidden, that is special. They want to be special. They want to be noticed. Flat Earth is not about Flat Earth. The reason that most folks can't convince somebody, even when they have overwhelming evidence that Flat Earth is a lie and fake, is because Flat Earth is not about the Earth. Flat Earth is about the people that believe in it. You see, it's an ego, it's a selfish, self-centered thing. It's not the flat Earth. It could be anything. It could be a conspiracy. It could be the fact that they think natural orange juice is the best thing around. It's the thing for the moment that they've grabbed onto that gets people to pay attention to them, whether it's good or bad. It gets people to pay attention to them. Flat Earth is not about the Earth. It's not about the shape of the Earth. Flat Earth is a lie. It's about the people that are telling the lie. They want attention. They crave attention. And this gets them attention, good or bad. You know, praise from other Flat Earth believers or from people who go, what are you talking about? It gets them attention. That's all it's about. Flat Earth is about doubt of things that are real and things that have been proven. It's not about proving anything. It's always about you proving it to them. Why? Because while you're trying to prove it to them, what are you giving them? Attention. It's not about anything but attention. It's all a lie. You know, most of them don't even believe it to begin with. It's all a lie.
This moon should be as big as the road if it was... That's impossible on a flat Earth. It's impossible to get a picture of the moon that big when the road is that small. Flat Earth is a lie. This is an impossible picture on a flat Earth. You cannot get this done because that moon should be tens of thousands of miles away from you. Well, thanks for watching. I know a lot of people ask you to, subscribe and click and like and such, but, I don't want other people to be fooled. The presentations they provide are slick. The words they come up with are fancy. The ways they explain things seem to work, but once you put them into practice, they don't. So please spread the word. Keep that truth flowing. Keep the information coming so that we can stop these people from preying on people that are gullible or just want to learn. So thank you again.
I hope what I did helps you or somebody else.
Stay tuned and look for other things from Productions MJC.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Please like and subscribe. Have a good day.